Hello, I'm Craig Gentry.
And I'm Dustin Wells.
I'm a backyard barbecue hack.
And I'm a professional pitmaster.
I consider myself a pretty good cook, but my ribs have always just been mediocre at best. So I got the help of a professional here. He's gonna teach me how to make the best ribs I've ever had.
And it's gonna be so awesome, Craig, because I've cooked so many ribs, I've done competitions, we've got several trophies, we do a lot of catering, and we have our own YouTube channel, so make sure you check that out. Link is in the description below. And I'm ready to cook some ribs, aren't you?
Fantastic.
It's gonna be awesome. Let's do it.
All right, so we're ready to get these things trimmed up. Tell us what we got here. What are we looking at?
We have 2 racks of pork spare ribs, and then we've got 2 racks of baby back ribs, and we're gonna cook these very similar. So we're not gonna do much different. We're just really the trimming is gonna be a little bit different.
All right, cool. Let's get these things opened up and trimmed up.
Let's do it. All right, so these are our baby back ribs, and we don't really have too much trimming that we have to do to this. The first thing that I always like to do is just square it up. So even though you lose just a little bit of meat, I always try to find that little tiny bone right there. I'm gonna cut that off. Just keep it right there. And really, I don't want this bone right here. You see how this bone's right here on the very end? I don't want that because it's honestly just gonna come out anyway. So I'm gonna get right in between it and cut right as close to that bone as I can. So you lose a little bit there, but it's gonna give you a nice presentation in the end. I'm gonna go to the other side and do the same thing. Now, again, this is really just presentation. So you're not really, if you're not doing competition, you don't have to do this, but I really think it's gonna give you a nice look.
Okay, so you got them chopped off there on the ends there. They're all squared up. Now what?
Now I just want to take a paper towel and kind of dry this up. It's always hard to work with wet ribs. Do that. Okay. Now really there's a couple of ways that you can pull the membrane off, and honestly sometimes it works great and it just all rips off in one thing, and then sometimes you just got to work at it. I've had it happen to both where it feels so good to rip the whole thing off. Let's see if we can do that today. I'm gonna try to start right here in the middle, and I'm just gonna get right under, and I lift up and then go under, up, under. So I kind of do this, just working it.
Now what happens if you leave the membrane on?
If you leave the membrane on, when you take a bite of the rib, you'll get this chewy, little tough piece at the bottom of the rib, and it doesn't have that great mouthfeel. So I like to take that off. It's a little extra work, but I really think it's gonna make the quality of your ribs a lot better. All right, so now I've got this kind of open all the way through. I can take my finger, we're gonna hope. Let's see if we can do it.
Look at that.
Boom, look at that. That's perfect. Man, it doesn't get better. It doesn't get any better than that. And then that's pretty much it for trimming up my ribs. I'll kind of feel around the outside and make sure there's nothing hanging off, any kind of fat or anything that's not going to be good to eat later. It's nice and squared up. It looks really good. So now we're ready to season this one up. All right, so now we're ready to trim up our spare ribs, and the first thing I like to do is just get a paper towel and dry them off. They're a lot easier to handle, just like we did the baby backs. All right, so just like the baby back ribs, we want to square these up first. So this side over here is already looking pretty square. So what I do is I just kind of feel, and there's a bone right there kind of hanging out. That's just gonna come out anyway. So I'll flip these over, and that very last bone on the tall side, I'm gonna take off, but I'm gonna trim as close to that bone as I can get so that I don't miss out on any of that meat.
So while you're trimming these up, these are St. Louis style. What's the difference between St. Louis style and normal spare ribs?
So the difference in St. Louis style ribs is they've taken off the breastbone and they've left these rib tips on, but I'm gonna show you how to get rid of those as well. But first, let's get this other side trimmed up. Now you can see over here, we've got a small side. If you cook this, this part's gonna kind of burn up. It's just not gonna, it's gonna get way done before these middle ribs. So it's gonna fall apart, the bones are gonna fall out, and that's not really something that you want, especially if you're doing like a competition style. So I'm just gonna feel where that small bone is, and I'm gonna go right on the other side of it. I'm gonna go right about there. Let me get right in between it. There we go. So now you see we've got this piece hanging off here. I'm gonna just kind of trim that up, make sure that looks nice and neat. This is looking pretty good, but a lot of times with these St. Louis cut ribs, they'll still leave those rib tips on there. I'm not necessarily against those, but especially if you're doing competition, you really want that nice one bone bite.
Yeah. And tell you what, I am against those, so show me how to cut those suckers out.
Yeah, so what I do is I go to the longest bone, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bones from this side over here, and I just kind of feel, and if you put your finger here, Craig, you can tell right where that is. Can you put your finger there? You feel that right there?
I feel that.
So that's exactly where that is. Now, what I like to do is take my knife and go right in between there, okay, and going straight across the rib, I'll put my knife in and I just go straight across. And I try to do that all the way. Now you're gonna get some cartilage, you're gonna get some bone. So now you see we've got these rib tips here, and that really does two things for us. Number one, look at these ribs. Those ribs look nice, they're nice and even, they look really good, they have a nice presentation, and this is what I call a pitmaster snack. So I like to throw these on the smoker, season them, treat them the same way, and then I just nibble on these.
Gotcha, okay.
That's the best part. And then just like the baby backs, we want to remove that membrane. Okay, so after much of a fun time, we got that membrane off. Now I just want to double check my ribs, make sure there's nothing hanging off. Right here, you can kind of see we have some of this extra fat. Do you want to eat that?
Nope.
So I'm gonna trim it off.
Cool, so membrane is off, they're trimmed up. What's our next step?
Now it's time to season it.
Great.
So let's do it.
All right, so what do you recommend to season up ribs with?
Well, I of course recommend my Wishing Well BBQ competition style rub.
Of course you do.
Of course, yeah.
Hey, what if I wanted to buy some of that? What would I do?
You could buy it on my web store. If you go to any of my social medias, you can click on my link tree and go directly to my website. Yep.
I'll put it on the screen.
Yeah, there you go. I like
Yeah.
that. That's a good idea. Watch me.
I'll put it on the screen and then a
Screw
link
that
in the
up.
description.
Yeah, for sure. But this is a really good seasoning because it has that salt, it has that sweet, and it has just a touch of back heat, which
Okay.
if you're doing competition barbecue, that's something that you really, really want. But I use this on ribs, chicken, pork, brisket. I use it on everything because it's just so good.
Okay, great.
So
One-stop shop for all.
one-stop shop. That's it.
Easy.
That's it.
Takes up a lot less space in my spice cabinet, I guess.
Yes, that's all you need. All you need. So the first thing I'm gonna do is get my spare ribs, and I'm gonna do the back side first. That's the most important. So I'm gonna get a little bit of mustard. This is my binder. I don't have to use a lot. And here's the thing: a lot of people will say, "Ew, I don't like mustard," or "Oh, I don't, that's gross." But it does a couple of things. You're not gonna taste this in the end product, but it's a good binder because it's kind of thick, which is gonna make the seasoning adhere to it a little bit better. And then also, if you think about it, if my rub is kind of a deep red color or like a darker red color, and then you kind of have this yellow as the background, it gives it a really good color as
Okay.
well. It kind of helps with that. I make sure I get all the sides of it. And a lot of times I'll just flip it over and just go ahead and add mustard to both sides. So I don't have to go back and forth. Just rub on there. Perfect. Now the top part is my presentation side, but a lot of people will say, why do we need to season the back side? That's not your presentation side, that's not really where the flavor goes. But if you think about this, if you cut that rib and you take a bite of it, what part is hitting your tongue first?
Yes.
The back part of the rib is hitting your tongue first. So you definitely want some flavor on there. Now, when I season it, I want to try to be as even as possible, right? So I like to try to do like a typewriter and go back and forth. And I don't want to be too shy with this, but I want to make sure I get it nice and even. So I see a lot of people just barely use seasoning on there. I want to pack it full of flavor. And that's because when we wrap it later on, you're going to lose a little bit of this, but this is just going to give us a really, really good color. I'll do the same thing to this one here.
I can see that kosher salt in there.
Yes, definitely has some kosher salt. And I'm just pressing down, just trying to, you never want to rub the ribs because then it can get nice and gritty.
Yeah.
So I just kind of push it down, and I season even the tip up top here.
Season the sides.
Season the sides. Make sure I get all of those sides there. Now, if you're in the competition world and you're doing that, you don't want to season the bottom half of the ribs. And the reason why is because that's primarily where the bone will protrude from. And if you have that seasoning there, that kind of pushes out with it and it'll make the bottom of your bones dark. So you don't want that because you want them to look really nice and presentable. So I'm not going to season that bottom part. I'm going to leave the bottom of the rib just unseasoned there.
Gotcha. Never knew that.
Yeah, but the top part is totally fine. So we'll get some more on there. There we go. Making sure it's nice and even, pressing it down. There's the bottom part of the rib. You can leave that. You can let these sit if you want to. If you want to let them kind of sweat out, you can do that. I don't usually do that. I haven't noticed a major difference in my ribs when I do that. Now you got the top part. Now this is our presentation side. So I want to make sure that I have a nice even distribution of seasoning going all the way across. I don't want a big glob of seasoning here and then not a lot of seasoning here. So I'm just going to come over the top and go back and forth. It's nice and even as I'm doing it, and I'll make a couple of passes. Just making sure it's even. Now again, that looks like a lot of seasoning, but when we wrap it later, some of that will kind of come out with the melted butter. But hey, we're packing a bunch of flavor into these ribs anyway. And I mean, look at that color.
Yeah,
I mean, that color is really, really awesome with this competition rub. So we'll do the same thing here. And there you have it. There's our seasoned spare ribs. They look great. They have a really, really good color, and these are ready to go on the smoker.
Great.
Let's season up our baby backs, even though we're going to do them pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
Hey, now we're ready to put these ribs on the smoker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these ribs right on the rack here, and I want to make sure that I kind of bunch them up just a little bit. I don't want to push them too hard, but I do want to make sure that they're nice and squared up, because the way you put them on the pit, that's the way they're going to cook. So I'm making sure it's nice and squared up, it's nice and even. Do the same thing with the spares. I want to leave just a little bit of space. You don't want them touching so that they can breathe a little bit, get some of that air in between them. We'll put our baby backs on.
Hey, if any of you Masterbuilt guys are watching, I'll put a link in the description for that middle grate. This works perfect on the Gravity Series 800. And that grate's the same size as the bottom grate, so you basically double your space. And in my last video, I had a lot of people asking questions about it, so I'll put a link in the description for that. That is like, it's like 32 bucks instead of the one that was like 80 bucks from Australia. So that's definitely worth looking into if you got a Masterbuilt.
Anytime you can double your space on a smoker, that's always a game changer.
For sure.
For sure. Now we've got these ribs on and they're looking really, really good. So we're gonna close them down. They're gonna stay on the smoker for around 3 hours, maybe less, maybe more. I'm gonna show you and walk you through what I'm looking for before we wrap these ribs up.
Okay.
So let's close it down and let it cook. All right, we've had these ribs on for 2.5 hours and we're ready to get to the wrap stage, but let me show you what we need to look for in these ribs other than just time. All right, so these are our ribs and just check them out. They have such a really good color. Now, you could use time as a method to kind of gauge how long they need to be in the smoke, but if you'll look right here, our bark is nice and set. Like when I rub this, nothing comes off. But then I'm also seeing some of this fat starting to render, If I pick up this rib here, you can start to see that I'm getting a little bit of pullback on these bones, especially over here on the baby backs. We're starting to see some of those bones come through. They look great, they have a good color, it's starting to render that fat here. If we were to get a temp reading on these, which isn't super important, but it's nice to know where we're at. We're sitting right around 164, 165 in the spare ribs. About 175, 177. We can call that an even 180 right here. But again, don't just look for time and temp. Look for that fat rendering, look for that color, look for a little bit of that bone drawback, and then that's how you know we're ready to wrap these ribs up. So let's do it. Okay, so we're ready to wrap, and the first thing that I've got here is I've got 2 sheets of aluminum foil, and the first thing that I want to do is put down 4 tablespoons of butter. Now, if you want to use Parquet, if you want to use the tub butter, you just want to make sure you have a nice little amount of butter here, because that's going to be our liquid to kind of help braise the rib a little bit. And of course, butter is fat and flavor, so we definitely want that in our wrap. Next, we're going to get some brown sugar, probably a handful here, and I'm just going to kind of evenly distribute that. Looks like quite a bit. I would call that, what, half cup?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe half cup there. We've got some honey that we're going to use, and the honey is what we really want, because that's going to make it sticky, it's going to make it sweet, it's going to give it that really good texture, and I'm just kind of going back and forth there. Nice. And then I've got some more of my competition style rub, just to kind of keep those same profiles going. Go across there like that. Now I'm going to take my ribs and I'm going to put them down, and I want the bones to be up. Look at the color on that. That looks so good. That looks so good. Man, that looks great. So I'm going to go bone side up. I'm going to put the meat side down here. And this is a really great opportunity to kind of check. Make sure you don't have any super dark spots. Down here on the bottom of these ribs where they're starting to come out, you can kind of scrape some of that dark off. That's really just some of the bone marrow. If you're really going for presentation, you can kind of scrape some of that off. I've seen some comp guys use a toothbrush. We're not getting that hardcore today. But this looks really good. Now we're going to do the exact same thing on the top side. And then just for extra measure, I like to wrap them one more time. And then that's it. That's all we've got to do. We're ready to get all of these wrapped up and then put them right back on the smoker. And we're going to actually take these until they are completely done. When we get to the glazing phase, I'll show you why that's so important that we take this all the way until they're completely tender.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Awesome. Let's get these back on the smoker. We're gonna let these ribs cook for about an hour to an hour and a half before we check them. We're gonna start probing them for that perfect tenderness. So we'll be right back with you. All right, we've had these ribs on the smoker for an additional 2 hours, and they are ready to come off and be glazed.
What do you mean by ready? So what am I going to be looking for whenever I'm doing this on my own? How am I going to know whenever they're ready to come off after they've been wrapped up in the foil?
Well, let's come over here to the smoker and I'll show you. All right, so the way that I know these ribs are ready, first off, I can just tell by kind of feeling in the package. It kind of wants to bend, so I know that these are ready to check. Now, if I open these up, I see a lot of that liquid. That looks good. And then you see the steam kind of come out. That's a good sign that you're ready. Man, these look really, really awesome. You can see some of that bone pull right there. That's a good thing. If I try to pick these up, They want to bend, but they're not necessarily just going to fall apart, but they're just about there. I mean, I'm right around 200, 203, and I can tell by feeling it that it feels really, really nice and tender. There's like almost no resistance there, but I don't want to go all the way through because then I'll stab through, because this juice is going to be really important for our glaze. All right, so we've got about the same thing happening here. On the spares, you usually see a lot more bone pullback. Man, that looks amazing. Those bones look really, really nice. I can just tell by feeling it. Nice and tender, wanting to bend, almost breaking right there, but we don't quite want to take it to the point where it just falls apart. Again, probing. Feels really nice and tender. There's like no resistance happening there. Looks really, really awesome. Let's see what our temp is. Yeah, so our temp's right around 203 as well. Again, you don't necessarily want to just look for temperature. You want to look to see how well these ribs feel. You want to see that bone pull back. And now I'm going to show you how we're going to glaze these ribs. So now we've got these ribs over here on the counter, and I want to let these vent for just a little bit because they have a lot of momentum as they're cooking. So they've been in the foil, so they're really ramping up on temperature. So we want to let that kind of slow down and come down, because if you continue and go right back on, you could get them a little overdone where they're just going to fall apart. And you want to have a really nice bite through, but you want it to be really, really tender. So we're gonna just let these vent just long enough to make up our glaze. Okay, so one of the biggest pitmaster tricks that I can tell you about a rib glaze is you don't want a super, super thick rib glaze. It's gonna get gloopy, it's not gonna have a good texture, so this is the pitmaster trick that I wanna show you. I'm gonna take these ribs out of this container and just set them aside. Let's take a look though. That looks so, so pretty. I mean, look at that. That has a beautiful color. Those bones look amazing. Man, I cannot wait. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this juice that has that butter, brown sugar, honey, that extra seasoning. I'm gonna put it in a mixing bowl here. And I'm honestly not really measuring too much. I'm gonna get a little more juice from one of these other racks here too. Just a little bit more, but I would say this is probably half and half of that juice. And then of course I'm going to use my Wishing Well BBQ house barbecue sauce. This is our sauce. You can find it on the website. It is such a great sauce for ribs, and I'm just going to mix that in just like this. I used almost all of this bottle, but I'm gonna just swirl that around. And all that extra juice mixed in with that sauce is going to be so good on these ribs. And what I can do is I can take just a touch more of my competition style rub just to keep those same flavor profiles going. Probably about a tablespoon or so. Mix that in. That is perfect. And this is about the consistency that we're looking for. We don't want it really thick. We just want it nice and thin down so that we do have that barbecue sauce flavor, but we also have all those other flavors in there. And now we're ready to glaze. Start off putting our spare ribs on there. Baby backs. Man, these have such a great color. And those look so good. Now I'm just going to take my brush, and I don't really want to do big brush strokes. I just kind of want to dab this glaze on there. We're going to let this glaze sit for about 15 minutes. If you go too much longer, you're going to continue to cook the rib, and then also that sauce just doesn't really get the flavor that you want. It gets a little too dark. So you really only need about 15 minutes for this glaze to set up. And I'm not going super thick. I'm just kind of putting some of that on there. Getting it nice and even. You can even brush it on the bones. I don't want any pulling happening, so I might just kind of dab it. What is that? That sounds like fireworks. Now we're gonna close this smoker down and let it smoke for about 15 minutes. We'll come back and check it out then.
All right, the ribs are finally done. The glazing process went great. It looks fantastic. It smells delicious. I'm ready to cut into these ribs and get my first taste.
I'll tell you what, I'm ready to also because they just look and smell phenomenal. The color's perfect. That glaze has set. And do you want to show them what it looks like with the glaze?
Yeah, but first, are these going to be the best ribs that I've ever had?
Hands down, no questions asked.
Can't wait.
No questions.
Let's do this.
Let's do it. Man, oh man, these look so good. Just check out that color. The glaze is nice and set. They are so shiny. The bones look great. You've got a lot of pullback. And I know that these are done because they've taken on a little bit of a darker color. They're nice and thick and sticky. They're not running off. If I kind of dunk this, the glaze is not running off of the rib. It is perfectly set. So we're ready to slice into it, so let's do it. All right, so our ribs are off the smoker. They look amazing, and now it's time to slice them. So the first thing I like to do is take these ribs and flip them over so that I can see the back side of these bones. And then I'm gonna take my knife, and I want to go right dead center of these bones. And I'm just gonna slice. Oh man, like butter. Maybe. Turns a little bit, and then there's this little guy. Perfect. Now I'm just going to take these and flip them over. Look at this. I'm going to take a center rib out here. How nice and juicy that rib is. It just has so much moisture. You know this is gonna be good. And now let's get the baby backs off.
All right, Dustin, these look fantastic. Starving to death. It's dinner time.
Man, I'm so ready to take a bite of one of these ribs.
Let's. I want to try the spare ribs first.
Okay, let's do it. So this is the best one right in the middle. Looks great. So if you want to grab that one. Hey, I don't get to do this with very many other people on my channel. I'm usually by myself.
Yeah,
so hey,
me too.
Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Cheers to a good cook.
Meat cheers.
Let's take a bite.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
dude, the pull is perfect. Like the They're not like fall off the bite. What they call the bite through? Yeah.
That's a perfect bite through rib.
I mean, it couldn't be better.
Well, here's what you're looking for. You see that there's a nice bite mark. Did it take anything at all?
No.
To make that happen? And then really, you could even, like, it holds together really well, but you could even really just like pull some of it off.
I mean, that bone is clean other than the, you know, sticky honey and stuff on there. That's ridiculous.
The flavor profile with that competition style rub, and then the juices from the wrap and the sauce. But that's a winning combination in my book. And you notice if we had that membrane on, you would have that weird chewy bite on the end of it, but you don't get that. It just melts. It just melts in your mouth. Clean bone.
These are ridiculous, man. Seriously.
You can't beat that. All right, are you ready to go in for a baby back?
Yeah, so what am I going to experience that's different on the baby back versus the spare ribs?
Ooh, I don't know. I think that you're going to get a little bit more meat.
Okay.
Versus that rendered fat. As far as flavor goes, I think we're going to have pretty close to the same flavor profile. Let's just take a bite and find out.
Okay.
This one right here. That looks good.
Man, yeah, that is meaty.
Yeah, the baby backs are definitely meaty. Let's take a bite. Again, perfect bite through.
Straight to the bone.
Straight to the bone. Doesn't fall apart. You know, you can see it's not falling apart, but you can easily pull the meat off of it. Man, what do you think?
I really don't know which one I like best. You're right, the flavor profile is very, very similar. The texture is completely different.
Same thing with the membrane. Us taking that off. If we didn't take that off, we would have a real chewy, like, crunchy piece. Some people like that, but I don't really like that. I like my ribs to be pretty tender.
These are very tender.
So what do you think your favorite is? If you had to pick one right now.
I like the spare ribs. And I've always thought that I like baby back better. Always. I've always thought I like baby back better.
I think there's a reason why people really love using spare ribs in competition. And it's because you get that really pretty, like, nice square look. I mean, that just looks really nice. You get a really good bone pull. So you clean, if you were doing competition, you would take these middle 4 ribs. You would do several racks of ribs, but you would take those middle 4 ribs. And another little pitmaster trick, if you're really wanting to elevate it,
brush the sides.
Take a little bit of this glaze and just brush the side just a little bit. Especially if you're doing competition, you want to do this.
Yeah, I've seen that in some other videos before.
And it doesn't have to be thick. Just a little bit like that right there. You should try that. Get one of those spare ribs. Here, you have mine.
Okay.
And try that with that sauce on there. Because that'll give you some of that extra flavor where we don't have seasoning. Oh, yeah.
Man. Hey, so this is your first time cooking on the Masterbuilt Gravity Series. What is your thoughts on that cooker?
And I think it's such a great smoker because you don't really have to tend to it if you have a really busy workload, but you still want that charcoal wood flavor that you might not get from other types of smokers. I think this is definitely a really good go-to for you. The temperature stayed pretty good and consistent throughout the entire cook, and it gave these ribs a phenomenal flavor, I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's what I love about the Masterbuilt Gravity Series. It's as easy to use as a pellet cooker, but it gives more flavor. You have, I mean, you have actual wood chunks and you have charcoal in there. It's putting off some real flavor. It's got a real fire going in there. I love this thing. I love how easy it's going. Actually, later tonight, here in just a few hours, I'm going to throw a brisket on it, and then I'm going to go to bed and then finish cooking it tomorrow. So,
and that's another great thing too, because you run stuff like this, and I run offsets. I would have to pretty much stay awake to keep the offset going. This will let you go to bed, and it'll still give you that really good flavor that you're looking for.
Man, Dustin, it's been great having you. Thank you so much for showing me some of these rib secrets. We're gonna wrap up this video. If you haven't already, go check out Dustin's YouTube channel at Wishing Well BBQ.
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. You can buy all of my products on my web store. You can buy merch. You can buy so many awesome things. Just check out the link in the description below and come check out my page. We'd love to have you.
Thank you guys. I'm gonna wrap it up here. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button for me as well. I'll see you the next time we fire this thing up. Thanks guys.
Cheers.